Here is a second response to MoBushin. You have stated that that the Middle Eastern control of our wars is was to stop the whole Russian situation. And granted, I understand that Russia, for the longest time, has had interest in the Middle East, in particular Iran, and I mean, I think that there is some truth behind that. But at the other end, there was some that I've heard some people say that. Now, I do not agree with this, obviously, because you could do something about it to begin with. But people will claim that if Hitler took over the world, he would not be able to control the world because it would just collapse on itself. So if Russia gets too big and becomes bastards, the natural outline of the whole human existence would rebel against that, and I don't think it would be Russia would be able to get anywhere because they would just collapse like they kind of did in the first place. Despite the Cold War and the nuclear war threats that Russia did, there was really very little war, if you want to call anything, unless you want to claim Vietnam or the Taliban tribe that we funded, or Korea. But when it comes down to it, the only people to bomb us were the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and Osama, who we funded in the first place. So even if Russia was a big threat, they never did anything because they're not stupid. And you were talking about people with the jihads that are willing to take their lives, and we funded these tyrants in the first place. And I think this is the stem of the roots. And as I've said before, I think Israel is a ticking time bomb. I mean, whoever decided to put Jews into the middle of the whole Middle Eastern capital of the world and just say, oh, I hope this will go well when the Jews take over land. And is this not negligence? Were people thinking? I mean, granted, all the monotheistic religions kind of have a long-term kind of hate, or whatever you want to call them, like animosity. But there were many Jews who lived in the Middle East before Israel who had to actually leave their homeland because of the hatred that came about from the state of Israel in the first place. So, I mean, you had 900,000 Jews that fled Arab lands because of the state of Israel, because of the hatred that grew from that. And then, of course, we supported it, and then we poked our nose left and right. And I say that the terror threat is indirectly from our supporting. And I mean, we funded Osama bin Laden twice, not once, twice. Were people like asleep at the wheel? I mean, why do we need to fund like mercenaries to fight for us in the first place? And that's my question. We have the homeland advantage. We have the same kind of advantage that England had. England was always a powerful country and had the upper hand because they had basically what you call almost like a moat at the English Channel, which gave them advantage. People would have trouble attacking. And we have that same advantage because we're isolated from the rest of the world. And granted, we have countries like Canada and Mexico attached to us, and they're not really militaristic societies. Like, I would never really say that anywhere in the Americas is like a threat. Like, we have to worry about the Mexicans killing every last American, and it's really not the threat. It's the Eurasia threat, and we're isolated, and that's an advantage to begin with. And it's that same kind of advantage. So we could work with that and not even have to use pawns to fight wars with us when we know that the pawns are bastards to begin with. I mean, it's like, why do we need to have Osama bin Laden in the first place fight our battle? And I think it's pretty much bullshit. I mean, granted, we had Russian threats in Iran and Iraq, but we kind of did the right thing with Georgia. We've had for many years U.S. military in Georgia, and we have the capability to keep the Russians in check so they can't go past Georgia. It's a strait, and it's blocked by the Caucasus Mountains, and it's like a pen, and we could keep the Russians in there if they come and check. Now, granted, I don't think that we should go to war with Georgia now, because Georgians were just idiots to even shoot down the Russians' planes to begin with. And if a country the size of Rhode Island or Connecticut wants to be bunch of shitheads and have a country, one of the biggest, most powerful countries like Russia in the world, go and attack a country that's probably one of the weakest countries in the world, then they should have thought about that, because what were they, on crack when they decided to do that shit? I mean, were they thinking? I mean, it's a joke, and I think we could still contain the situation, but I mean, granted, we don't want like a huge war in Georgia, but I mean, in my opinion, it's not our business, and I mean, obviously there's always going to be a threat, and that's human existence. It was never perfect. I mean, you always had a threat. It was either influenza, the Black Plague, or war, and nothing's going to change. And so, I mean, like I said, we have the advantage of being isolated from the world, and we should work with that instead of having an army like the troops in still Germany and wasting our tax dollars. We have our troops so widespread against the world that it's like we're vulnerable, and we have that home court advantage in the first place. No one could fuck with America because we're isolated from the rest of the world. And it's like, so why don't we use that to our advantage in the first place?